Does this make us complicit?
We are Natasha Kidd and Joe Addison.
We are represented here in an image from one of our projects called No Working Title.
If you have worked with us, you'll know we are quite different in scale. Otherwise, we are actually quite alike.
We're both artists, we each make things, and we both teach in art schools at Kingston School of Art and Bath School of Art.
In this short film, we'll tell you something about what we do together when we bring our experiences of making and learning into a collaborative practice.
Our work together began in galleries, museums, delivering educational workshops and producing learning resources.
Have we looked in the right places?
This experience influenced our perspective on creative learning and learning about art more broadly.
Where do we look now?
It led us to a collaborative art practice which is located at the intersections of art, teaching and learning. It shaped our position that art making, in its broadest sense, is an inherent act of learning which provides access to knowledge forms that have wide-reaching benefits.
Is there a responsibility to look differently?
Against the constraints of current conditions of UK education, where decolonialisation is long overdue, the value of STEM subjects dominates, and creative subjects are being cut back, devalued, and marginalised.
What is our responsibility as gatekeepers?
Our work is designed to locate, amplify, zoom in on, and scrutinise the act of learning.
Our work is located at the intersections of art, teaching, and learning.
We do this in dialogue with one another initially, and then in more depth with others.
It has taken time to recognise and occupy this position. We need to consider where the work takes place.
We believe in dialogue and in listening as radical tools for collective learning.
Who is included and who is excluded?
And we have established a loose set of principles for enabling and giving form to this dialogue in practice.
Firstly, we identify a question.
Our projects are iterative, so more often than not, the subject of one inquiry is derived from the previous one.
At the outset, the questions we ask might seem very simple.
How do artists find things out? What are the behaviours of artists? What does learning need?
Then, staging a corresponding inquiry in the public realm, we work together to make clear decisions around a set of core practical arrangements.
What is our responsibility now, in our role within these institutions? What is our responsibility now?
These strategies enable us to stage our inquiry through correspondence with others, a kind of making visible of collective learning, simultaneously planned and
This
impromptu.
is us learning too, isn't it?
There is a precision here, a responsibility to create a structure or framework that can hold our inquiry with others. We invite practical participation and dialogue.
Other individuals' voices and experience are crucial in shaping and challenging our understanding.
Students, teachers, academics, experts, and members of the public are invited to take part in and contribute to what is learned.
Who is included and who is excluded?
At the outset, we perform a careful balance, deliberately resisting assumptions or inquiring too deeply into the question we are asking, so that as much as possible we can enter into a mutual investigation alongside and in dialogue with others.
Is our effectiveness in our openness and dialogue? Who is included and who is excluded?
We know enough to know what we want to ask, but we hold off knowing more so we can genuinely do this alongside others.
What do we want this film to do?
By combining teaching and learning strategies with art performance, we consistently position our activities in direct relation to current educational frameworks. Inventory of Behaviours is an ongoing project that gives form to these principles.
It explores the preparations, patterns, neuroses, and procrastinations surrounding the production of artworks in the studio.
It zooms in on the conditions that precipitate, encircle, interrupt, or influence the act of making.
It is a collection of responses to a call-out and the stage events where those behaviours are enacted.
Is this generous?
Through an open call first made in February 2017, artists at all stages in their career were invited to consider their own behaviour in the physical, digital, or psychological spaces in which their art is made,
and to devise an instruction to enable someone else to imitate or reenact their rituals, traits, or habits.
In a series of public participatory performances, the Inventory of Behaviours has manifested as a facility for collecting and generating these behaviours, live and constantly updated.
Instruction number 90. Stare at the wall.
Art students, school children, members of the public, and academics have chosen from hundreds of behaviours and enacted them.
Instruction number 13. Sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up.
In dialogue with educational theorists, choreographers, neurologists, we have asked, might the preparatory, interruptive, or reflective activities of artists play a fundamental role, and should the institutional methods that have evolved for appreciating, evaluating, and enabling creativity be reconsidered to accommodate them?
Does this expose our method in action?
Perhaps it's a straightforward proposition that artists' everyday physical behaviours might be linked to complexity of thought, and, in turn, the things they make and do. After all, associations between movement and perception, the physical and psychological, are not unfamiliar. But if this is the case, through enactment and dialogue, we ask, how have the boundaries of creative process been drawn in art education, such that the sketches towards a performance or painting are scrutinised, but the laborious and overly attentive sharpening of pencils is disregarded?
We work within the systems, writing courses, learning outcomes and assessment criteria. Aren't we complicit?
Whose ideas and experiences of cultural knowledge making have provided the framework for relevant activity?
Instruction number 32. Sort things by width, by height, by colour, by type, by any other arbitrary system.
Within the context of current educational preoccupations with evidencing and measuring production, what type of work is valued and who is allowed to do it?
Instruction number 3. Unroll approximately 4 foot of bubble wrap on the floor. Fashion a pillow. Lie down and snooze.
Crying, sleeping, staring, running, and surfing would appear to be strategies, conscious or not, which have become integral to the itineraries of artists, necessary, even fundamental patterns of experience towards creativity.
In our work together, it is necessary to debate and continually reassess where we locate ourselves and who our work brings us into dialogue with.
Is this exposing us learning?
We consider what we do to be part of the wider ecology of structural change within our education.
Graham Sullivan describes art making as a complex system, which incorporates a range of constituent activities as part of a dynamic learning life.
He says artistic practice can be seen to comprise a critical coalition of practices that involve an ongoing dialogue within and across, between and around the artist, artwork and context, where each has a role to play in the pursuit of understanding.
For 2 years prior to the first outbreaks of coronavirus, Inventory of Behaviours and the series of events we curated gave us glimpses into the ways artists navigated, engineered, or prevailed over their circumstances to enable and sustain creativity. Some of the strategies we learnt about have since been undermined, some amplified, others radically reconstructed by the urgency of the climate crisis and by the impact of the events of 2020, the global pandemic and the death of George Floyd.
Now, as artists and teachers, we begin to question the responsibilities we each assume in contributing to the crucial process of recovery and change.
What is this? What is this? Does this make us complicit? Have we looked in the right places? Where do we look now? Is there a responsibility? We couldn't always say it with confidence. Our work is located at the intersections of art, teaching, and who is learning. We work within the systems, writing in our role within these attitudes and assessment criteria. What is our responsibility now? Is our effectiveness in our openness? What do we want this film to do? Is this generous? What is this? Does this make us complicit?